The scream tore through the silent campus quad like a gunshot, shattering the fragile peace of that frozen December night. You think you can just walk away from this? After everything? Lucas's voice cracked, raw and unfiltered, as he lunged forward, his gloved hand clamping onto my wrist with a grip that burned through the chill. In that split second, as snowflakes danced mockingly around us, I realized the man I'd idolized for months, the one who'd pulled me from the edge of my own darkness, was about to drag me into his. My name's Cody, and that holiday campus retreat was supposed to be my escape. Upstate New York, the kind of place where the Adirondacks loom like ancient guardians, and Hamilton College hunkers down against the endless white winters. It was the week before Christmas break, and the university had this weird tradition. A holiday campus program for stragglers like me, kids without families to rush home to, or those dodging the chaos of the season. Professors volunteered to lead workshops, bonfires, and those forced-feeling icebreakers that always end with someone oversharing about their divorce. I signed up because the alternative was my empty apartment in Syracuse, staring at the walls until the ghosts of my past clawed their way back in. I'm 21, a junior majoring in literature, the type who hides behind dog-eared copies of Kerouac and Salinger because real life feels too jagged. Gay, yeah, but not out, not really. Not after the fallout with my high school ex, who spread rumors that turned my senior year into a minefield. Hamilton was my fresh start, but solitude has a way of amplifying doubts. That's where Lucas came in. Dr. Lucas Hale, adjunct professor of American Studies, mid-40s, with that effortless charisma that made lectures feel like confessions. Salt and pepper hair, wire-rimmed glasses that slipped down his nose when he got passionate about Whitman, and a voice like aged whiskey, smooth with a bite. He wasn't just a teacher. He was the guy who noticed when I spaced out in class, slipping me extra reading lists with notes like, "Cody, this one's for the fighters in us all." Holiday campus kicked off with a bang. A welcome bonfire in the quad, flames leaping high against the indigo sky, casting flickering shadows on faces flushed from mulled cider. I hung back, nursing a paper cup that smelled more like cloves than alcohol, watching the group coalesce. There was Garrett, my roommate, blonde, built like he lived in the gym, and the kind of straight-laced golden boy who volunteered for everything. We'd bonded freshman year over late-night pizza runs, but lately, his easy grins felt edged with something sharper, like he was sizing me up. "Come on, Codes," he'd say, clapping my shoulder a little too hard. "Don't be a wallflower." Tonight, he was all in, leading a round of ghost stories that had the undergrads howling. Then Lucas arrived, late as usual, his wool scarf trailing like a banner. He scanned the crowd, his eyes landing on me with that quiet intensity that always made my pulse stutter. "Cody," he called, weaving through the circle. "Saved you a spot by the fire." It was nothing, a simple gesture, but in the glow of the embers, it felt like a lifeline. We talked that night, really talked about how the holidays hollowed you out if you let them. He shared a sliver of his own story. Widowed young, no kids, just a cat named Whitman and a cabin up in the woods. "Solitude's a choice, kid," he said, poking at the fire with a stick. "But it's a lonely one if you don't pick your companions wisely." By day 2, the workshop started. Lucas ran a creative writing seminar in the dim-lit basement of Root Hall, fairy lights strung haphazardly to combat the gloom. It was intimate, just 10 of us, huddled around a scarred oak table with laptops glowing like fireflies. I poured myself into those sessions, scribbling fragments about lost boys and unspoken aches. Lucas read them aloud, his voice wrapping around my words like smoke, pausing at the raw edges. "This," he'd say, tapping my page, "this is where the truth lives, Cody, right in the fracture lines." Garrett was there too, though writing wasn't his thing. He was in pre-med, all facts and futures, but he tagged along for the experience. I'd catch him watching Lucas with this furrowed brow focus, like he was dissecting a frog in biolab. One afternoon, after we'd workshopped a piece of mine, a veiled confession about loving someone you couldn't touch, Garrett cornered me in the hall. "Dude, that was intense. You okay?" His hand lingered on my arm, concern etching his features, but there was an undercurrent, a possessiveness that made me pull away. "Yeah, man. Just words. That night, the campus transformed into a winter wonderland. Strings of lights draped the paths, and the air hummed with carols from a distant choir. Lucas organized a midnight hike up to the old observatory, a relic from the college's astronomy heyday, now just a stone tower overlooking the frozen Mohawk Valley. We trudged through knee-deep snow, flashlights bobbing like will-o'-the-wisps, laughter echoing off the pines. I fell in step with Lucas, our boots crunching in sync. Ever feel like you're chasing stars you can't reach? I asked, emboldened by the dark. He glanced at me, moonlight silvering his profile. Every damn day, Cody. But sometimes you stop chasing and just let them find you. His words hung there, heavy with implication, and for a heartbeat, our gloved fingers brushed. Electric, terrifying. I yanked back, heart hammering, pretending to adjust my scarf. Garrett noticed, of course. He was always noticing. Later, by the roaring hearth in the student union, he sidled up with 2 steaming mugs of cocoa. "You and Hale seem tight," he said, casual as a summer breeze, but his eyes were storms. "What's his deal, anyway? Guy's got that brooding artist vibe, but I heard he's got baggage. Ex-wife left him for some poet in Vermont." I shrugged it off, but the seed was planted, doubt, that insidious weed. As the days blurred, the lines between mentor and something more frayed. Lucas invited me to his office hours, which stretched into evenings poring over drafts by lamplight. We'd debate Frost's The Road Not Taken, until the arguments dissolved into silences thick with possibility. One night, as sleet lashed the windows, he leaned back in his chair, loosening his tie. "You're good, Cody. Really good. But you're holding back. What's the fear?" I met his gaze, the room shrinking to just us. "The fear of being seen. Truly seen." He nodded, slow, like he understood the weight of it. "Then let me see you." It was innocent, those moments. Hands brushing over pages, shared glances that lingered. But innocence has a shelf life, especially when your heart's involved. I started dreaming of him. Tangled sheets that weren't, whispers in the dark that echoed too real. Waking up in my dorm, sweat damp and aching, I'd curse myself. He was my teacher. Forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, American style. Garrett's jabs grew sharper. During a group snowball fight on the quad, kids pelting each other with glee, snow exploding in white blooms, he accidentally nailed me square in the chest, knocking the wind out of me. "Whoops, sorry bro," he laughed. But his eyes flicked to Lucas, who was watching from the sidelines, concern creasing his brow. Later, nursing bruises in the cafeteria, Garrett dropped the bomb. Heard from Sarah in the lit department. Lucas got canned from his last gig down in Philly. Some scandal with a student. Nothing proven, but watch your back, codes. I laughed it off, called it small-town gossip. But sleep evaded me that night, the wind howling like accusations. Was that why Lucas had landed here, in this frozen backwater? A man running from shadows? The turning point came midweek, during the talent show in the chapel. A drafty Gothic space with vaulted ceilings that swallowed sound. I read a poem I'd written for the seminar, voice trembling as I poured out verses about fractured light and unspoken vows. The room hushed, and when I finished, Lucas stood, clapping slow and deliberate, his eyes locked on mine. "Bride." Something deeper. Afterward, in the vestibule, he pulled me aside. "That was you, Cody. All you. Meet me later? My cabin. We can celebrate properly, no workshop, just us." My stomach flipped. "Yeah, I'd like that." Garrett overheard, of course. His face darkened as we filed out into the snow. "Cabin in the woods? Bold move, Romeo." Sarcasm dripped like icicles. I brushed past him, but his words clung. The cabin was a mile off campus, nestled in a copse of firs, smoke curling from the chimney like a beckoning finger. I arrived as dusk bled into night, boots shedding snow on the porch. Lucas opened the door, flannel shirt sleeves rolled up, a fire crackling behind him. "Come in from the cold." Inside, it was all warm wood and leather-bound books, a far cry from the sterile dorms. He poured us whiskey, neat, the burn chasing away the frost, and we settled on the rug, backs to the hearth. We talked for hours about my fractured family, the dad who bailed when I was 12, the mom who pretended it didn't scar us, about his loss, his wife, taken by cancer 5 years back, leaving him adrift. "Love's a thief, Cody," he said, staring into the flames. "Steals your breath, then your bearings." His vulnerability cracked something in me. I shifted closer, our knees touching. "But it's worth it, right? The risk." He looked at me then, really looked, and the air thickened. "With the right person?" "Yeah." His hand found mine, tentative, thumb tracing my knuckles. Time suspended. I leaned in, heart a wild drum, and our lips met, soft, searching. A question answered in the quiet. It wasn't fire. It was embers, deep and sustaining. We pulled back, breathless, foreheads pressed together. "This, us," he murmured. "It's real, but it's complicated." I nodded, knowing the chasm of ethics, ages, power. Yet in that moment it felt possible. Human. Garrett's betrayal hit like a blizzard the next morning. I woke to a barrage of texts. Screenshots from anonymous campus forums. Whispers of Hale's history repeating. Then Garrett's call, "Check your email codes." Thought you should know. Attached was a scanned article from a Philly rag. Lucas. Fired amid allegations of an inappropriate relationship with an undergrad. No charges, but the stain lingered. "He's using you," Garrett's message read. "Like he used that kid. Wake up." Rage boiled. I confronted Lucas in his office that afternoon, the door slamming like thunder. "Is it true?" My voice broke on the words. He paled, sinking into his chair. "Cody, listen. Tell me." The room spun. It was a misunderstanding. She was the one pursuing, but the optics. He trailed off, eyes pleading. "I never crossed lines. Not then. Not with you. But doubt is a venom." I stormed out, the campus a blur of white and gray. Days fractured. Workshops skipped. Bonfires avoided. Garrett played the hero, cornering me in the library stacks. "I did it for you, man. Your family." His hug was too tight, laced with something unnameable. Jealousy? Longing? I'd glimpsed it before, in the way his gaze lingered, but buried it deep. The climax brewed on the retreat's final night. A gala in the alumni hall, chandeliers dripping light over tuxes and gowns. The air thick with pine and perfume. I went to face it all, black tie choking me like regret. Lucas found me by the punch bowl, his suit rumpled, eyes shadowed. "We need to talk." "Not here." But he pulled me into the alcove, voices murmuring beyond the velvet curtain. "I should have told you everything," he said, voice low. "The Philly thing, it wrecked me, made me question if I could ever." He swallowed. "But you, Cody, you make me want to try." Torn. I whispered, "Garrett says you're poison." His face crumpled. "Garrett? He's the one feeding the rumors. I saw him digging last week, asking around. He's scared, Cody. Scared of losing you." The pieces slotted, Garrett's barbs, his protection, the undercurrent of possession, not friendship, obsession. Before I could respond, the curtain ripped back. Garrett stood there, flushed with champagne and fury. "What the hell is this?" His eyes darted between us, accusation sharpening to a blade. "Garrett, back off," Lucas growled, stepping forward. "You don't get to decide that." Garrett lunged, shoving Lucas against the wall with a thud that silenced the alcove. Glasses clinked to a halt beyond. "He's mine to protect. From creeps like you." I froze, the world tilting. "Yours? What are you?" Garrett whirled on me, eyes wild. "I've been here, Cody. All along. While you're mooning over this has been professor who'll ruin you like he ruined that girl." His confession spilled, raw and ragged. Years of buried feelings, watching me from afar, the holiday intensifying it into madness. Betrayal twisted both ways, his lies, Lucas's omissions. Chaos erupted. Lucas shoved back, a scuffle of limbs and curses, until security hauled them apart. I bolted into the night, snow stinging my face, lungs burning as I ran to the quad. The lights twinkled mockingly, the same strings from that first bonfire. I collapsed onto a bench, sobs racking me, the cold seeping into my bones. Footsteps crunched. Lucas, coat askew, breath heaving. Cody. He dropped beside me, not touching, just there.
I'm sorry.
For the past, for not being upfront. But this us, it's not tainted. It's a chance. I looked at him, tears freezing on my lashes. And Garrett? He's hurting. We'll deal with that. But you're the light I didn't know I was chasing. In that frozen tableau, with the campus holding its breath, I chose. Not perfection, but possibility. I took his hand, our fingers lacing like roots seeking soil. Then let's chase it together. The scandal simmered down. Garrett confessed his fabrications, got counseling instead of expulsion, and we parted as strangers, the fracture too deep for mending. Lucas and I navigated the minefield. He reported the Philly rumors cleared. I finished the semester strong. Spring thawed the snow, and with it, our tentative steps. Coffee dates off campus. Hikes where words wove into something enduring. It's not fairy tale. Life's not scripted like that. But in the quiet of his cabin, with Whitman purring at our feet, I learned love isn't absence of storm. It's the anchor in it. Human, flawed, achingly real. And on those nights, as stars wheeled overhead, I knew. Some roads not taken lead right back to you. The aftermath of that night lingered like frost on window panes, opaque and insistent. Classes resumed in January, the campus shedding its holiday husk for the grind of midterms and melting drifts. I threw myself into routines. Early runs along the Erie Canal Trail, where the ice cracked like brittle promises, and late nights in the library, annotating margins until my eyes burned. Lucas and I agreed to space. No office visits, no lingering glances in the halls. Professional, he'd texted. A single word that ached like withdrawal. But space has a funny way of amplifying echoes, and mine were all him. His low chuckle during seminars, the way his pen tapped rhythms against his desk. Garrett vanished into his pre-med orbit, our shared dorm a minefield of silences. We'd nod in the kitchenette, microwave humming between us like a mediator, but conversations died at hellos. One evening, as sleet rattled the panes, he knocked on my door. Tentative, like he was testing thin ice. Codes, he started, leaning against the frame, his gym bag slung over one shoulder. Can we talk? I gestured him in, the room cramped with textbooks and half-eaten ramen. He paced, words tumbling out in fits. Apologies laced with excuses, admissions of feelings he'd buried under bro-code bravado. I didn't mean to explode like that. It's just, seeing you with him, it flipped something. You're the only real thing here, man. His eyes, blue as faded denim, pleaded for absolution I couldn't grant. I get it, I said, voice steady despite the churn. But lies aren't protection, Garrett. They're cages. He nodded, shoulders slumping, and left with a mumbled, "Take care." The door clicked shut, and I exhaled. A chapter closing, not with a bang, but a whisper. Human messiness at its finest. With Garrett's shadow receding, Lucas's pull intensified. We met covertly. A diner off Route 20, vinyl booths sticky with nostalgia, where we dissect the day's lectures over greasy fries. Your essay on Ginsberg, he'd say, dipping a fry in ketchup. It gutted me. That line about howling at locked doors. Pure fire. I'd flush, not from praise, but the normalcy of it. Two guys stealing moments in a world that didn't care. One Saturday, as March winds howled, he invited me to his cabin again. This time for research. I arrived to stacks of vinyl records and a turntable spinning Coltrane's, a love supreme. Figured we needed soul, he grinned, handing me a mug of coffee black as midnight. We spent the afternoon lost in archives. Yellowed letters from the beats, faded photos of Kerouac chain-smoking on the road. But it was the pauses that spoke loudest. His hand on my shoulder as we pored over a map of their wanderings, my head dipping to rest there, just for a second. Tell me about Philly, I said finally, the words slipping out like a dare. The fire popped, casting his face in amber. He sighed, setting down the letter. Her name was Elena, brilliant 22, auditing my lit class. We bonded over poetry slams, late coffees turning into dawn confessions. A blurred mentor, friend, more. Nothing physical but the university. Optics killed it. She denied pursuing, I denied impropriety, but the board saw scandal. Fired on a Friday, packed by Sunday. His voice roughened. It made me vow off connections. Safer that way. Until me. I met his gaze, the room humming with jazz and tension. Until you. He reached across, fingers threading mine. You make the risk feel like reward. We kissed then, slower than before, deliberate, like mapping uncharted territory. No rush, no desperation, just the quiet unfolding of trust. Afterward, curled on the couch with Coltrane's saxophone weaving through us, he murmured, "This scares me, Cody, not because of who you are, but because I could lose it." Won't happen, I promised, though doubt nipped at the edges. Power imbalances, university policies, they loomed like storm clouds. But in that cocoon of wood smoke and warmth, we dared to dream. Spring semester peaked with chaos. Finals looming, cherry blossoms tentative against gray skies. Lucas's American Studies class became my anchor, his lectures on civil rights icons Baldwin, King, infusing the air with urgency. Love as resistance, he'd say, pacing the lecture hall. That's the American story at its core. I'd scribble notes, but half were metaphors for us. Stolen glances when he called on me, the way his voice softened on my name. Garrett resurfaced sporadically. A group project forcing proximity, his laughs forced but genuine. One rainy afternoon in the chem lab, as we calibrated pipettes, he cracked, "Heard you're acing Hale's class. Guy must really like your style." The jab landed soft, more self-deprecation than spite. "He's tough but fair," I replied, measuring drops with precision. "We're good, Garrett. Or we can be." He paused, pipette hovering. "Yeah, I'd like that. A truce fragile as April thaw." But the real storm brewed elsewhere. Whispers slithered through the department. An anonymous tip to the dean about inappropriate faculty-student relations. My stomach nodded at the email blast, mandatory sensitivity training, vague allusions to policy reviews. Lucas texted, "It's nothing, old ghosts." But I knew better. Philly's specter had claws. Confrontation came in May, under a sky bruised with thunderheads. I biked to his cabin, tires churning mud, arriving soaked and seething. "Is someone gunning for you?" I demanded, dripping on his rug. He pulled me inside, towel ruffling my hair like a kid brother. "Sit. Whiskey. Talk." He poured, handing me the glass. "It's Garrett. Not malice, fear. He came to me last week, confessed everything. Said he leaked the tip to protect you, but it's eating him. Therapy's helping, but..." He trailed off, eyes distant. Rage flared. "He doesn't get to play God with us." Lucas cupped my face, thumbs brushing rain from my cheeks. "Hey, this isn't about him. It's about us deciding our story." Thunder rumbled, shaking the windows, and I leaned into him, the fight draining like storm water. We made love to the rain's rhythm, not urgent, but reverent, bodies learning the language of forgiveness. Yet dawn brought clarity's edge. "We can't keep this hidden forever," I said, tracing patterns on his chest. "What if it costs you everything?" "Then we face it," he replied, fierce. "Together." Summer break scattered us. Me to an internship in NYC, archiving at the Schomburg Center, him to a fellowship in Boston. Letters bridged the miles, actual ones, penned in looping script, stuffed with pressed leaves and ticket stubs. "Miss your voice in the quiet," he'd write. I'd reply with sketches of Harlem streets, doodles of us as beatnik wanderers. Absence honed longing into something sharper, sustainable. Fall semester dawned crisp, leaves aflame. We reconvened with caution. Public dates as colleagues, private nights where boundaries blurred. But the university's gaze sharpened. A new provost, all edicts and audits. Lucas's tenure review loomed, a guillotine blade. The climax crested in October, during homecoming weekend. The campus pulsed with alumni, tailgates belching smoke and cheers. I volunteered at the Lit Festival, manning a booth on queer voices in American canon, Audre Lorde, Essex Hemphill. Lucas' keynote, his speech on narratives of the marginalized, a masterclass in veiled truths. Stories aren't safe, he said, voice carrying to the back rows. They're subversive. They demand we see the unseen. Afterward, in the green room, a cramped space with folding chairs and wilting flowers, he pulled me into a hug that lingered too long. "Proud of you out there," he whispered. We slipped away to the observatory trail, the same path from holiday nights, now carpeted in crimson. Laughter echoed from the stadium, but up here, it was just us and the wind. "I love you," I blurted, the words tumbling free like leaves. He stopped, turning to me, eyes wide. "Cody," joy warred with fear. "I love you too. God, I do." We kissed under the tower's shadow, fierce and free, until headlights pierced the dusk. A campus security cruiser, slow-rolling the path. We broke apart, hearts pounding, but it passed without pause. "Close call, a warning shot." That night, Garrett texted, "Saw you too. Be careful. Dean's on the warpath." No judgment, just fact, a bridge mending plank by plank. The betrayal's echo faded, replaced by resolve. Lucas went public in his review. Not our story, but his truth. Philly cleared, no skeletons. The provost grumbled, but tenure stuck. We emerged scarred but standing. Winter circled back, another holiday campus on the horizon. This time I'd lead a workshop, freshmen wide-eyed and waiting. Lucas and I planned it together, over cocoa in his cabin, Whitman batting at ribbon scraps. "Full circle," he said, arm around me. "Yeah," I agreed, leaning in. "And it's ours." As December frosted the windows once more, the rhythm of us settled into something resembling normalcy. Though normal for two men threading love through academia's needle eye is a relative term. Hamilton's quad glittered with fresh lights, echoes of last year's chaos softened by time's gentle abrasion. I woke to Lucas's texts. "Coffee run? Black, 2 sugars." We'd meet at the Union, casual as classmates, but his pinky would hook mine under the table, a secret Morse code. Garrett and I rebuilt in fragments. Study sessions in the cafe turned to tentative hangs, watching Knicks games on his laptop, yelling at Miss Threes. "You were right," he'd admit one night, passing the popcorn. "About cages. I'm working on it." Therapy had sanded his edges. He even dated a med student named Riley, all freckles and fire. Seeing him happy loosened the knot in my chest. Forgiveness isn't erasure. It's space to breathe. My writing bloomed under Lucas's shadow, not eclipsed, but enriched. I submitted a short story to the Paris Review, a vignette of two souls colliding in snowbound isolation. Rejection stung, but his note in the margin, "Revise, resubmit, this is gold," propelled me. We celebrated rejections with rituals. Walks to the frozen pond, skipping stones that thudded instead of skipped. "Every no's a step," he'd say, arms slung over my shoulders. Toward the yes, but undercurrents stirred. The dean called Lucas in routine, he claimed, but his jaw tightened over dinner. Just checking boxes. Nothing to sweat. Yet sweat we did in the quiet hours. Whispers persisted. A faculty email chain leaked snippets about ethical lapses. I traced them to a bitter adjunct, jealous of Lucas's rising star. Paranoia crept, but we armored with honesty, weekly check-ins, no secrets. Holiday Campus 2.0 arrived like a prodigal. This year, I co-led with Lucas, our seminar on American romantics, Love in the Wild. Students trickled in, wide-eyed transfers, jaded seniors nursing heartbreaks. The bonfire crackled same as before, but I stood taller, Garrett at my side, wingman now, not warden. "Don't burn the place down," he teased, handing me a cider. The first workshop hummed. A girl named Mia read a piece about unrequited crushes, voice quivering. Lucas nodded, sage as ever. Vulnerability's the vein of gold. Mine it. After, in the hall, he squeezed my elbow. Like you taught me. Nights blurred into magic. Stargazing on the quad, bundled in shared quilts, pointing out Orion's belt like kids. Remember last year? I murmured, head on his chest. How could I forget? You changed everything. His kiss was salt-laced, tender, but cracks spiderwebbed. One evening, post-hike, we returned to the cabin to find the door ajar. Ajar enough for alarm. Inside, paper-strewn, drawers rifled. What the? Lucas bolted the door, face ashen. Not a break-in. Targeted. My blood iced. The dean. Worse. That adjunct, Jenkins. He's been gunning for my spot. We pieced it. Stolen drafts, my story's manuscript among them. Betrayal's second act, academic flavor. Rage simmered to strategy. Lucas reported it, I rallied allies. Garrett, surprisingly, dug into Jenkins's history, unearthing plagiarism claims. Payback's a bitch. Garrett grinned, high-fiving me. United front. The confrontation brewed at the retreat's talent showcase. Jenkins lurked, smug in tweed, nursing a scotch. Lucas cornered him post-reading, voice steel. My office. Now. I tagged, heart thundering. In the dim-lit space, Jenkins blustered. Just research, Hale. Borrowed ideas. Theft. Lucas cut. And sabotage. I've got logs, witnesses. Jenkins deflated, sputtering pleas. Campus security escorted him out. Tenure dreams dust. Relief washed, but exhaustion clung. That night, in the cabin's glow, Lucas pulled me close. We weathered it. Together, I echoed. Spring unfurled with vindication. Jenkins suspended, our paths cleared. Lucas's book deal landed. A memoir on loss and reinvention, with nods to a certain student that danced ethics edge.
I graduata summa, captasel flip a triumph.
Commencement blurred. Families milling, but mine was Lucas in the crowd, eyes shining brighter than the sun. Postgrad, I deferred law school for a fellowship in D.C. civil rights writing, Baldwin's torch. Lucas drove me south, U-Haul rattling behind his old Subaru. The road unspooled. Diners in Pennsylvania, motels with neon buzz. One night in Virginia, under a harvest moon, he proposed. Not ring, but promise. Build with me, Cody. Cabin, city, wherever. Tears pricked. Yes, all in. D.C. dazzled. Monuments stark against cherry skies. My apartment a shoebox overlooking the Potomac. Lucas visited weekends. Boston to D.C. a blur of Amtrak and ache. We navigated long distance with letters, calls till dawn. Miss your laugh, he'd say. Echoes here without it. Garrett thrived, 2 med school acceptance, Riley by his side. Our texts evolved. Memes, milestones. Proud of you, codes. He'd send, no shadows. But distance tests. Summer hit, and frustration frayed. Cancelled flights, work's grind. One July night, video call glitching, I snapped. This sucks. When's it real? He leaned in, pixelated but present. Fall. I'm applying for the Smithsonian gig. DC, full-time. Hope ignited. You'd do that. For us? Anything. The move coalesced in September. Lucas's boxes arriving amid autumn's blaze. We christened the apartment with takeout tie, sprawled on the floor amid chaos. Home, he said, toasting with beer bottles. Life layered, my articles in The Atlantic, his lectures at GW. We hosted dinners, Garrett and Riley road-tripping down, toasts to survival. To fractures mended. Garrett raised his glass, eyes clear. Yet humanity's hue includes shadows. Lucas's book tour pulled him away, crowds adoring the widowed sage. Jealousy nipped, faceless fans, hotel loneliness. One call, voice thick. It's you I see in every line. Trust anchored. I know. Winter 2027 brought snow to D.C., rare and reveling. We escaped to the cabin for break, driving north through blizzards. The Adirondacks welcomed like kin. Pines bowed under white, the Mohawk a silver vein. Holiday campus? We'd outgrown it, but echoes lingered. One eve, by the fire, Lucas knelt, ring this time simple gold. Marry me, Cody. Not despite the storms, but because we danced in them. Tears flowed. Yes, God, yes. The wedding was small. Spring equinox, National Arboretum, blossoms rioting. Garrett best man, Riley beaming. Vows echoed Baldwin. Love is or it ain't. Thin love ain't love at all. Rings exchanged, kisses sealed under dogwoods. Years folded, DC to Brooklyn. My novel published to quiet acclaim, Lucas's tenure solid. A kid entered, adopted. A brown-eyed boy named Elias, all curiosity and chaos. Daddies, he'd lisp, tugging us into forts. Garrett, Godfather, visits with tales of ER heroics. You two make it look easy, he'd say. It's not, I'd laugh. But it's worth every scar. And in quiet nights, Elias asleep, Lucas's hand in mine, I'd trace the road. From that frozen quad scream to this hearth's glow. Betrayal's blade dulled to lesson, conflict to strength. Love, American as jazz, improvised, enduring, profoundly human. Elias changed the cadence, turning our duet into a symphony. Discordant at times, but richer for it. At 3, he was a whirlwind. Finger paints smeared on walls. Questions like arrows. Why sky blue, Daddy? Lucas, ever the professor, spun answers into stories. I'd counter with sillies, earning giggles that lit the brownstone like lanterns. Brooklyn suited us. Cobblestones echoing with vendors' calls. The East River a constant companion, ferrying dreams across to Manhattan's gleam. Parenting unearthed vulnerabilities. Sleepless nights with teething cries. Lucas pacing the loft while I rocked Elias, whispering Kerouac rhymes. On the road again, I'd murmur, and he'd chuckle, weary but warm. Our road's right here. Conflicts arose, not dramatic, but domestic. Whose turn for bedtime, debates over preschool waitlists. Yet they knit us tighter, each spat a stitch in resilience's quilt. Garrett's life paralleled. Married now, a daughter named Sage, his practice booming in Syracuse. Visits were pilgrimages, barbecues in our postage stamp yard, kids chasing fireflies while we swapped war stories. Remember holiday campus? He'd muse, beer in hand. Thought I'd lost you forever. You didn't, I'd say, clinking bottles. Just found better. Work wove through. My second book, A Queer Odyssey Through Heartland Towns, hit shelves amid buzz. Podcasts, signings where fans shared their own hidden loves. Lucas's classes expanded. A podcast on queer threads in American lit drawing crowds. We collaborated, joint panels, his gravitas balancing my fire. But success's shadow is scrutiny. A profile in the New Yorker dredged Philly, twisting it into controversial romance. Trolls bayed online, but we batted them away, block, breathe, build. A deeper conflict simmered in year 5. Elias's questions. Why 2 daddies, not mommy? Innocent as dandelion puffs. We answered with books, and tango makes 3 families in all colors. But doubt crept for Lucas. Am I enough? Late-night confessions, his head on my lap. You're everything, I'd affirm, fingers in his hair. We are. Therapy helped, couple sessions, unpacking paternal ghosts. Mine, absent dad, overcompensating with presence. His lost wife, fearing inadequacy. Words unearthed roots, sunlight fostering growth. The real tempest brewed externally. 2030. A national wave of family values bills, targeting adoptions, curricula. Our world contracted. Notices at Elias's daycare. Lucas's syllabus flagged for bias. Protests erupted. DC marches I'd covered turning personal. One night, after a rally, signs waving, chants thundering, Lucas returned hollow-eyed. They want to erase us, like we don't count. I pulled him to the couch, Elias napping upstairs. We count double. Fight smarter, not harder. We channeled it. Op-eds in the Times, my novel adapted for PBS, A Quiet Revolution. Garrett joined the fray, his clinic hosting queer health forums. From betrayer to brother, he joked at a fundraiser, arm around Riley. Laughter healed old wounds. Climax crested that fall. A court challenge to our adoption. Some zealot parents' petition claiming unfit environment. Papers served at dawn. Elias's crayons scattered like shrapnel. Lucas raged, pacing our kitchen. Over my dead body. The hearing loomed, a coliseum of legalese. We lawyered up, pro bono from Lambda Legal, allies rallying. Courtroom days blurred. Testimonies on stability. Our life laid bare. Photos of park picnics, school plays. Opposing counsel sneered. 2 men? No maternal bond. Lucas testified last, voice steady as granite. Love isn't gendered. As shown in bedtime stories, scraped knees kissed better. Elias thrives because he's loved fiercely, fully. His eyes found mine across the room, anchor in the storm. The judge ruled in our favor. Adoption upheld, precedent set. Outside, rain-slick steps, media flashes popping, we hugged Elias tight. We won, buddy. Victory tasted like tears, salt and sweet. Aftermath rippled. National headlines, invitations to speak, White House panels, where Biden's successor lauded our American grit. But fame's fleeting, we retreated to roots. Christmas at the cabin, Elias building snow forts, Garrett's family joining. A chosen tribe, raucous and real. Years accelerated. Elias to school, braces glinting. Lucas's sabbatical in Paris, us trailing for croissants and sane sunsets. My third book, On Resilient Loves, dedicated to L, My Road Eternal. Garrett's keynote at our 10th anniversary. Vows renewed under Brooklyn Bridge, fireworks blooming like promises. Betrayals? Faded to footnotes. Garrett's a badge of growth, Jenkins a career's cull. Conflicts forged us, storms sculpting shores. Emotions deepened, romance evolved. Not fireworks, but hearth fires, steady glow. At 40, I trace Lucas's laugh lines, silver threading his hair. Worth the chase, I ask, wine glass raised. Every mile, he replies, kissing my temple. Humanity's arc bends toward light. Not flawless, but luminous. From that holiday scream to this quiet grace, we've written our American story. Dramatic, suspenseful, laced with betrayal's bite and love's balm. Romantic in whispers, humanistic in holds. And in Elias's sleepy night, daddies, the ending unfolds. Not the end, but the ever after we earned.